Hey guys, tonight we march into the heart of the Roman Republic to meet its most famous and formidable figure, Gaius Julius Caesar. But forget the marble busts, the imperial laurels, and the image of the undisputed master of the world for a moment. We're going to begin with the story of a proud, ambitious, and deeply in-debt young man from a fallen aristocratic family, a man whose career began not with a glorious victory, but by running for his life. So before we begin, if you enjoy these quiet dives into history's unglamorous truths, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe. And as always, I'd love to know where you are listening from and what time it is in your part of the world. Now let's step into the dangerous, chaotic streets of Republican Rome and ease into the first reason it sucked to be the young Caesar. Congratulations! The year is 82 BC. You are Gaius Julius Caesar, a teenager from the ancient and incredibly prestigious Julian clan. The good news: you can, with a straight face, trace your lineage directly back to the Trojan prince Aeneas and, through him, to the goddess Venus herself. This is a fantastic talking point at parties. The bad news: your family is nearly broke. Your political faction has just violently lost a bloody civil war, and the new dictator of Rome, a man named Lucius Cornelius Sulla, has just put your name on a list of people to be executed. This is the first reason it sucks to be you. Your famous name is a liability that is about to get you killed. You belong to the Julii, one of the oldest patrician families in Rome. Unfortunately, centuries of prestige don't pay the bills. Your family has the social standing of royalty and the bank account of a struggling olive farmer. It is a very awkward and expensive combination. More dangerously, your family is politically connected. Your Aunt Julia was married to the great general Gaius Marius, the leader of the Populares faction, the party of the people. You yourself have recently married Cornelia, the daughter of another one of Marius's powerful allies. And Marius has just lost a brutal civil war to Sulla, the champion of the aristocratic optimates. Sulla is now the absolute dictator of Rome, and he has a list. This is a major historical fact of the era, the Sullan prescriptions. Sulla posts lists in the forum of his political enemies. If your name is on the list, you are stripped of your citizenship, your property is confiscated, and anyone in Rome can legally murder you and collect a reward from the state for your head. The dictator Sulla has a to-do list for reorganizing the state, and it is mostly a list of people to kill. Your name is on it. You are 16 or 17 years old, and you have already made the hit list of the most powerful man in the world. Your political career is off to a very exciting, if potentially very short, start. Your crime is your connections. Sulla commands you to do one thing to save yourself: divorce your wife, Cornelia, and thus sever your ties to the defeated Marian faction. You, in your first great recorded act of arrogant, iron-willed defiance, refuse. You will not divorce your wife. It is a noble stand for a young man. It is also an act of suicidal stubbornness. You are now a marked man. You are forced to flee Rome in the dead of night, leaving everything behind. You become a fugitive. You wander the Sabine hills, constantly moving to avoid Sulla's patrols, sleeping in the rough, and suffering from a bout of what was likely malaria. It is a miserable experience, but it teaches you a valuable lesson that will define your entire life. That Roman politics is a brutal, zero-sum game, where the prize for second place is a swift and unceremonial death. You are forced to bribe the soldiers sent to hunt you, paying them off to look the other way. Your family and their powerful friends back in Rome work frantically behind the scenes, pulling every string they have to beg Sulla for your life. They finally secure you an audience. You are brought before the great dictator. He is reluctant to spare you. The ancient historian Suetonius tells the famous story that Sulla finally, grudgingly, pardoned you, but warned your family, "In this one boy, I see many Mariuses." Whether Sulla actually spoke this chillingly prophetic line, or if it was a dramatic invention by later historians to flatter your subsequent career, is a classic example of history being polished into a better story. What is certain is that Sulla stripped you of your inheritance and your wife's dowry. He also stripped you of an obscure but important religious office you had been nominated for, that of the Flamandialis, the high priest of Jupiter. This was meant as a final humiliation, but it was an accidental gift. The ancient, bizarre rules of this priesthood would have forbidden you from ever touching a horse or leading an army, effectively barring you from a military and political career. Sulla, in trying to disgrace you, has just accidentally cleared your path to greatness. You are pardoned, but you are not stupid. You know that Rome is still a death trap for you as long as Sulla is alive. The moment you are able, you leave Italy. You do what many ambitious young Roman men in trouble do. You join the army. You take up your first military posting in the eastern province of Asia, in modern-day Turkey. You are not yet a great general. You are a political refugee, a disinherited and impoverished young man, an exile from your own home, who has learned before the age of 20 that the most important skill for a Roman is not oratory or military strategy, but simple, brutal survival. You spend a few years in the East, a young officer proving his worth in minor military campaigns. You win your first military decoration, the Civic Crown, for saving the life of a fellow soldier in battle. You are building a reputation. Then, in 78 BC, the news you have been waiting for arrives. The dictator Sulla is dead. The political climate in Rome has shifted. It is finally safe to go home. But you are still a young man on the make. And you know that to succeed in Rome, you need more than just a good military record. You need a powerful voice, so you decide to make a detour to the island of Rhodes to study under the famous master of oratory, Apollonius. Your journey is interrupted by a group of friendly local entrepreneurs, known as the Cilician Pirates, who have a different and much more expensive educational program in mind for you. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. Your ambitious career plans are put on hold because you are unceremoniously kidnapped. This is a major historical fact of your early life. While sailing the Aegean Sea, your ship is captured by pirates. These are not romantic adventurers. The Cilician Pirates are a powerful and highly organized criminal network that effectively controls the sea lanes of the Eastern Mediterranean, a constant and humiliating problem for Rome. You, a proud Roman aristocrat and decorated military officer, are now their prisoner, their property. It is a profound and infuriating humiliation. You are now a hostage on a pirate ship, being taken to their small island stronghold of Pharmacusa. A normal person in this situation would be terrified, begging for their life. You, however, are Gaius Julius Caesar, and you are pathologically incapable of acting like a victim. The ancient sources, particularly Plutarch, paint your time with the pirates as a bizarre showcase of your incredible arrogance and fearlessness. Whether you were genuinely this composed, or if the story was later embellished to build your legend, the tale is a remarkable one. You treat your captors less like kidnappers and more like incompetent, noisy employees. You demand that they be quiet when you need to sleep. When you write poems and speeches, you read them aloud and then get genuinely offended when the pirates don't appreciate their literary merit, calling them uncultured barbarians. When they finally get around to discussing your ransom, they tell you they are demanding 20 talents of silver, a huge sum of money. You laugh in their faces. You are insulted by this lowball offer. You tell them that you are worth at least 50 talents, more than double their asking price. You are so arrogant that you are literally negotiating the price of your own kidnapping upwards. The pirates, who have never encountered a hostage like this before, are confused, amused, and deeply impressed. They agree to your terms. You dispatch your attendants to the nearby cities of Asia Minor to raise the massive sum, a callback to your family's poverty, as you have no personal fortune to pay for your own release. And then you wait. For 38 days, you live among the pirates. You participate in their games, you join in their exercises, but you never stop acting as if you are their commander. And you joke with them, constantly telling them with a smile on your face that as soon as you are free, you will hunt them down and have every single one of them crucified. The pirates think this is hilarious. They love your spirit. They do not realize you are being completely, deadly serious. Finally, the 50 talents of silver arrive. The ransom is paid. You are released. You immediately go to the nearest major port, Miletus. You are a private citizen, but you do not wait for the slow-moving Roman authorities to act. You gather a small naval force of your own on your own initiative. You sail back to the pirates' island stronghold. You find them still celebrating their good fortune, completely unprepared. You capture almost all of them, and their 50 talents of silver, which you used to pay for your impromptu naval expedition. You now have a new problem. You have a large number of prisoners, and the official Roman governor of the province is being indecisive about what to do with them. A callback to your defiance of Sulla, you decide to take matters into your own hands. You ignore the governor's authority, take your prisoners, and you fulfill the promise you made to them. You have every single one of them crucified on the beach. In a single strange act of what he perhaps considered mercy, you order their throats to be cut first, to spare them the long, agonizing death of crucifixion. You have survived, you have gotten your money back, and you have made good on your terrifying word. You have also shown yourself to be a man who operates by his own set of rules, a man who is willing to raise his own armies and execute his own justice, a deeply troubling and dangerous trait for a man in the Roman Republic. You return to Rome a minor hero and a subject of considerable gossip. You have outwitted Sulla, you have survived captivity, and you have crucified your own kidnappers. You have a reputation for audacity and a chilling ruthlessness. But in Rome, a reputation is not enough. You need power. And in the Roman Republic, power requires two things: a slow, methodical climb up the political ladder and a mountain of money. You have the ambition for the first, but a complete lack of the second. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. Your entire political career is a high-stakes gamble built on a foundation of crippling, catastrophic debt. The Roman Republic is a noble institution founded on the principle of public service. It is also a system where you must essentially buy your way into office by throwing the most spectacular parties and giving away the most free stuff. This is a major historical fact of your world, the cursus honorum, the course of honors. It is the prescribed sequence of public offices: questor, aedile, praetor, and finally the ultimate prize, consul. To win each election, you must win the favor of the Roman people, and the Roman people, you quickly learn, are very fond of expensive entertainment. You begin your climb. You get elected as a military tribune, then as a quaestor. But the most crucial and most ruinously expensive step is the office of aedile. The aediles are the city commissioners responsible for the maintenance of public buildings, the regulation of the markets, and most importantly, the staging of public games and festivals, the ludi. In 65 BC, you are elected aedile. You decide that you will not just be a good aedile, you will be the most spectacular, most beloved, most talked about aedile in the history of Rome. You do this by spending a fortune that you do not have. You stage the most lavish gladiatorial games the city has ever seen. You import hundreds of the best gladiators from across Italy. You have them fight in gleaming, polished silver armor. You put on magnificent theatrical plays with elaborate new sets. You decorate the entire Roman Forum and the basilicas, the public buildings, with your own money for the public's enjoyment. The people of Rome are ecstatic. They love you. They chant your name in the streets. Your creditors, to whom you now owe a fortune equivalent to the national budget of a small kingdom, are slightly more nervous. This is the obscure but essential reality of Roman political ambition. It runs on debt. You borrow immense sums of money from wealthy backers. Your most important creditor is Marcus Licinius Crassus, the richest man in Rome, a man who famously said that no man was rich unless he could maintain his own army. You borrow so much from him and others that your debt becomes a legend in itself. The exact amount is impossible to know, but ancient sources like Plutarch report it was a staggering sum, well over 1,000 talents of silver, many times the annual income of a wealthy senator. How you managed to convince anyone to lend you this much money is a testament to your incredible charisma and the Roman elite's appetite for high-risk political investments. You are now so deeply in debt that your creditors could have you legally declared a bankrupt and your person seized. Your only hope is your primary backer, Crassus. He continues to fund you, not because he likes you, but because you are now a political asset that is, in modern terms, too big to fail. He has invested so much in your career that the only way for him to get his money back is for you to succeed and reach a position of real power. You have successfully weaponized your own financial irresponsibility, but the stress is immense. You are living on a knife's edge. While you project an image of effortless generosity and patrician confidence, a callback to the great name you must uphold, you are privately being hounded by lenders. Your entire future is a gamble. The plan is simple and insane. Spend a fortune to get elected praetor. Once you are a praetor, you can be assigned a province to govern after your term is up. And in your province as governor, you will be legally entitled to tax the local population and command an army. You plan to use that position to wage a few profitable wars, extort a few local kings, and plunder enough wealth to finally pay back your astronomical debts and, with luck, make a profit. It is the accepted, if deeply corrupt, business model of Roman politics, but it requires you to keep winning, to keep climbing. One failed election, one political misstep, and the entire house of cards will collapse, burying you under a mountain of your own debt. You have successfully gambled your way up the lower rungs of the cursus honorum. Your lavish spending as aedile has made you a hero to the common people of Rome, and a terrifyingly high-risk investment to your creditors. You are popular, you are brilliant, but you are still politically vulnerable and financially insolvent. The conservative faction of the Senate, the Optimates, led by stern traditionalists like Cato the Younger, despise you. They see you as another populist demagogue in the mold of your uncle, Marius, a man who will use the love of the mob to dismantle the Republic. They are blocking your path at every turn. You realize you cannot break their power alone. You need allies, not friends but partners in a hostile takeover. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. To achieve your ambitions, you are forced to make a secret, cynical, and deeply unstable deal with the two most powerful men in Rome, both of whom you either distrust or professionally dislike. This is the great historical fact of your rise, the formation of the First Triumvirate in 60 BC. It is not an official government body. It is a private, backroom conspiracy, a secret pact to dominate the Roman state. Your partners in this enterprise are a study in contrasts. First, there is Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, or Pompey the Great. He is the most celebrated general of the age, a man who has won stunning victories in the East. He has returned to Rome, expecting a hero's welcome. But the jealous Senate, led by your enemies, has refused to ratify the political settlements he made in the East or to grant land to his veteran soldiers. He is a proud, powerful man who has been publicly snubbed. He is furious. Your second partner is Marcus Licinius Crassus, a callback to the man who holds your debts. He is the richest man in Rome, a plutocrat who has amassed a colossal fortune through real estate speculation and, according to some, by running his own private fire brigade that would only put out fires after the desperate owner had sold him the burning building for a pittance. But for all his wealth, the old aristocratic families still look down on him. He craves the one thing his money cannot buy, true political respect and a major military command to rival Pompey's. You are the third man. You have the ancient, noble name and the love of the people, but you have no army and no money. Pompey has the army, Crassus has the money, and you have the political genius to see that the three of you, united, are an unstoppable force. Whether the First Triumvirate was a brilliant conspiracy that you masterminded from the start, or a more fluid alliance that simply coalesced out of mutual opposition to the Senate, is a question that depends on how much credit one wants to give to your own political genius. What is certain is that you bring them together. You form a secret political friendship, or amicitia. This is an obscure but vital Roman concept. It is not about personal affection, it is a formal political alliance. You three agree to work together, to approve nothing in the state that displeases any one of you. It is not a team. It is a temporary, mutually beneficial truce in a three-way Cold War for control of the Republic. You smile at each other in public, you support each other's legislation through your political agents, and you privately spend your evenings trying to figure out how to eventually betray the other two before they inevitably betray you. It is a life of constant high-level paranoia. The alliance works perfectly, with Crassus's money funding your campaign and Pompey's veterans providing the political muscle. You are easily elected to the highest office, consul, for the year 59 BC. During your consulship, you ruthlessly push through the legislation your partners desire, granting land to Pompey's veterans and favorable tax breaks to Crassus's business associates. And in return, you secure for yourself the one thing you need more than anything else: a long-term, powerful proconsular command where you can finally wage a war, win glory, and most importantly, plunder enough wealth to pay off your astronomical debts. You are granted the governorship of Cisalpine Gaul and Transalpine Gaul for an unprecedented term of 5 years. You now have what you have always dreamed of: a loyal army, a province to govern, and a decade-long opportunity to wage war. But your success has come at a terrible price. You are now tied to two immensely powerful and ambitious rivals. You have created a three-headed monster to rule Rome, and your life is a constant, exhausting effort to ensure that the other two heads don't turn around and bite yours off. You have won the consulship. You have used the immense power of the triumvirate to force your will upon the Senate. And you have secured for yourself the one prize you desperately need: a long-term military command in a province ripe for conquest. You are now the proconsul of Gaul. Your primary job description is to pacify the region and defend the Roman frontier. This is a polite legal euphemism for invade, conquer, and systematically asset strip an entire country the size of modern-day France. It is a challenging but potentially very profitable project, and it is the only way you will ever pay off your monumental debts. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. Your legendary conquest of Gaul, the campaign that will make your name immortal, is not a single glorious war of flashing swords and brilliant victories. It is a 9-year, soul-crushing, bloody slog through forests, swamps, and mountains against hundreds of ferocious, divided, and deeply unpredictable tribes. Your life for the next decade is not one of comfort and glory. It is a miserable routine of marching through mud, sleeping on the cold ground, and fighting brutal, ugly, and constant skirmishes against an enemy who does not play by your rules. This is a major historical fact of your most famous campaign. The Gallic Wars, lasting from 58 to 50 BC, were not one war, but a long and grinding series of nearly a dozen campaigns. The Gauls are not a unified enemy. They are a chaotic collection of hundreds of different tribes who hate each other almost as much as they hate you. Your primary military strategy, a callback to the political lessons you learned in Rome, is to use their internal rivalries to your advantage. It is a policy of divide and conquer, or more accurately, encourage them to kill each other, then show up and kill the winner. A dedum, whether your conquest of Gaul was a defensive war to protect the Roman frontier, as you will later claim in your brilliantly written propaganda pieces, your commentaries, or a purely aggressive war of personal ambition designed to win you the wealth and military power you needed to rival Pompey, is the central question that defines your governorship. Your army, the legions, are a magnificent fighting machine, but their greatest strength is not their swords, but their shovels. This is an obscure but vital detail of your success, the power of Roman military engineering. Every single night, after a full day's march through hostile territory, your soldiers are required to build a fully fortified camp, complete with a ditch, a rampart, and a wooden palisade. It is a monumental, back-breaking task that they can complete in a matter of hours. While the Gallic warriors might be ferocious in a charge, they have no answer to the slow, methodical, and deeply boring efficiency of a Roman ditch. You spend your days not just fighting, but in a constant state of logistical anxiety. A callback to your crippling debts. This entire war is a business venture. You must not only win battles, but they must be profitable. You are in constant communication with your political agents back in Rome, managing your reputation, and you are writing. Every night, by candlelight in your tent, you are composing your commentaries on the Gallic War. They are written in a simple, elegant, and deceptively objective third-person style. They are also a masterful work of political propaganda, designed to be read aloud in the Senate and to the people of Rome. In them, you portray yourself as a calm, brilliant, and reluctant conqueror, bringing Roman civilization to the barbarians. You conveniently leave out the parts about the massacres, the brutal sieges, and the fact that you are enslaving entire tribes, perhaps as many as 1 million people, to be sold in the Roman slave markets to finance your war and pay off your creditors. The sucky reality of your life is this profound disconnect between the legend you are writing and the brutal, miserable reality you are living. The heroic Caesar of the commentaries is a fictional character you are creating in your spare time. The real you is a tired, middle-aged man, perpetually cold and damp, living in a tent, surrounded by enemies and haunted by the daily, grinding reality of a war that seems to have no end. You are not a god of war. You are a project manager for a massive, violent, and occasionally profitable construction and demolition enterprise, and your job is a decade of mud, blood, and paperwork. You are in your 3rd year of the Gallic campaign. It is a slow, grinding, and deeply unglamorous war of attrition. A callback to the brutal realities of your campaign. Your days are a monotonous cycle of marching through mud, overseeing the construction of fortified camps, and engaging in savage, inconclusive skirmishes in dark forests. Your great war of conquest is becoming a bit of a bore, and you, a man who thrives on dramatic, narrative-changing acts, are growing restless. You decide, in the summer of 55 BC, that it is the perfect time to take a break from this very difficult and unfinished war by starting a completely new, unprovoked, and logistically nightmarish war on an entirely different landmass. You will invade the mysterious, foggy, and possibly imaginary island of Britain. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. Your boundless ambition and your insatiable need for good press force you to undertake ridiculously risky and often pointless military adventures. Your invasion of Britain is not a sound strategic decision. It is a public relations stunt. This is a major historical fact of your campaign. You have very little reliable intelligence about the island. You know that some of the Gallic tribes you are fighting receive aid from their Celtic cousins in Britain, but this is a minor issue. The real reason for the invasion is propaganda. By crossing the ocean, you will be doing something no Roman commander has ever done before. You will be literally sailing off the edge of the known world. This is an obscure but powerful concept for your audience back in Rome. To the Romans, the ocean that surrounded the Mediterranean world was a place of myth and terror, a divine barrier that separated the world of men from the world of gods and monsters. By taking your legions across it, you are not just invading an island, you are challenging the very boundaries of the cosmos. It is a story so powerful, so dramatic, that it will make you a legend back in Rome, regardless of the actual military outcome. Your first invasion of Britain is a masterclass in how not to conduct an amphibious assault. You gather a small force of 2 legions on the coast of Gaul. The landing is a disaster. The Britons, with their fearsome war chariots, are waiting for you on the cliffs of Dover. You are forced to sail down the coast and find another landing spot where your soldiers, weighed down by their heavy armor, have to jump from the ships into deep water and wade ashore under a hail of enemy javelins. It is a chaotic, bloody, and nearly disastrous mess. You finally manage to establish a beachhead, and then the British weather, a famously uncooperative entity, decides to intervene. A major storm sweeps through the English Channel, wrecking or severely damaging most of the ships you had left anchored offshore, including the transports for your cavalry, which haven't even arrived yet. You are now stranded in a hostile, unknown country with a damaged army, no cavalry, dwindling supplies, and a fleet that is in pieces. It is a catastrophic failure. You declare victory, accept a few token hostages, and then use your army's legendary engineering skills to frantically patch up your remaining ships. You sail back to France as fast as you can before anything else goes wrong. Whether your invasions of Britain were a serious strategic attempt to cut off support for the Gauls, or purely a vanity project to create a spectacular narrative for your commentaries and outdo your rival Pompey's achievements in the East, is a central question about your motives. Back in Rome, however, your brilliant propaganda works perfectly. You write a thrilling account of your adventure for the Senate. You describe the strange, milky blue tides of the ocean, the fearsome painted warriors in their chariots, and your great, if vaguely described, victories. You conveniently omit the part where you almost lost your entire army to a single storm and achieved absolutely nothing of lasting strategic value. The Senate, who love a good story and are terrified of your growing popularity, have no choice but to vote you an unprecedented 20-day public thanksgiving. You return the next year with a much larger force, 5 legions, and a fleet of over 800 ships, determined to do the job properly. This second invasion is more successful. You march inland, you defeat the British tribes, you cross the River Thames, but you still do not conquer Britain. The land is too large, the people too rebellious, and the logistical challenges are too great. After a few months, you once again accept a nominal tribute that will never be paid, declare another glorious victory, and withdraw your entire army back to Gaul, just in time to deal with a massive new rebellion that has broken out there in your absence. Your British adventure is over. It has been an immensely costly and dangerous distraction. It has achieved no lasting strategic goals. But it has given you a fantastic chapter for your book, and it has made your name legendary in the streets of Rome. And for you, a man constantly fighting a war for his own reputation, that is a victory in itself. You return from your second, more successful, but ultimately pointless public relations stunt in Britain in 53 BC. You have crafted a magnificent story of Roman arms, triumphing in a mythical, otherworldly land for the Senate back home. But while you were busy writing your own legend, the people you were actually supposed to be governing have been busy writing a new chapter of their own. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. Your entire conquest of Gaul, built on a cynical strategy of divide and conquer, is about to be completely undone by the one thing you never thought possible: Gallic unity. You return from your successful PR trip to Britain to find that all the Gallic tribes you had previously conquered, subjugated, and pitted against each other have decided to form a book club, and the first book they are reading is How to Violently Overthrow Your Roman Oppressors. A callback to your earlier campaigns, the disparate, squabbling tribes have finally found a common cause: their profound and universal hatred of you, and they are now united under a single, brilliant, and charismatic young chieftain of the Arverni tribe, a man with a brilliant strategic mind and a name that is almost impossible for Romans to pronounce: Vercingetorix. This is a major historical fact, and the greatest crisis of your entire career. The Great Gallic Revolt of 52 BC is not like the other rebellions you have faced. It is a coordinated, nationwide uprising. And Vercingetorix is not a typical barbarian chieftain. He is a genius. He understands that he cannot defeat your legions in a pitched battle, so he adopts a clever and brutal new strategy, scorched earth. He convinces the Gallic tribes to burn their own towns, their own villages, their own fields of grain to the ground in front of your advancing army. He is destroying his own country to deny your legions the food and supplies they need to survive. It is a brutal but devastatingly effective plan, and it is deeply, profoundly annoying for your constantly hungry soldiers. Your situation is desperate. It is the middle of winter. Your legions are separated, and all of Gaul has risen against you. You are forced into a series of frantic, desperate marches through the snow-covered mountains of central France, often traveling with just a small cavalry bodyguard, risking your own life to rejoin your scattered forces. The hero of the commentaries is now a man on the run, fighting for his life in a country that has almost completely slipped from his control. The figure of Vercingetorix is known almost entirely through your own writings. How much of his portrayal as a noble, tragic, and heroic adversary was an accurate reflection of his character, and how much was a deliberate choice on your part to build up the reputation of the man you were about to defeat, thereby making your own eventual victory seem even greater? It is a masterful piece of self-serving propaganda, written by the victor. The campaign culminates in one of the greatest and most desperate sieges in military history at the hilltop fortress of Alesia. You finally manage to trap Vercingetorix and the main Gallic army, some 80,000 warriors, inside the town, but you do not have the strength to take it by storm. So you resort to the one thing your army does better than anyone else. You start digging. In a monumental feat of engineering, your legions construct a massive 11-mile-long line of fortifications around the entire town, complete with walls, ditches, watchtowers, and hidden traps to besiege the Gauls. Then, the situation gets worse. A massive Gallic relief army, perhaps 250,000 strong, arrives to rescue their trapped chieftain. Your army is now itself surrounded. You are now simultaneously conducting a siege and being besieged by two different massive armies at once. It is a complicated and deeply stressful work environment. So you do the only logical, if completely insane thing. You build a second, even longer, 13-mile wall of fortifications facing outwards to protect your own army from the relief force. You have built a donut of death, with Vercingetorix's army trapped in the hole, the Gallic relief army on the outside, and your own legions sandwiched in between. The final battle is a desperate, bloody, multi-front affair. For days, you are attacked from both the inside and the outside. The fate of your army, your career, and your entire future hangs by a thread, but the discipline and engineering of your legions hold. The Gallic relief army is finally repulsed. Vercingetorix, his own forces starving inside Alesia, is forced to surrender. The great revolt is over. In a famous, dramatic, and possibly embellished scene, he rides out of the fortress in his finest armor, circles your command post, dismounts, throws his weapons at your feet in a gesture of absolute submission, and is taken away in chains. You have won. You have reconquered all of Gaul. You have also just endured the closest you have ever come to complete and total annihilation. You are the conqueror of Gaul. You have spent 9 years in a relentless, brutal campaign, and you have won. You have added a vast, rich territory to the Roman Republic, killed 1 million of its people, and enslaved another 1 million. You are now, without a doubt, the most successful, most famous, and most powerful general in Roman history. You are expecting, perhaps, a well-deserved rest, or at the very least, a thank-you note from the Senate. Instead, you receive the news that while you were busy fighting for the glory of Rome, the political situation back home has completely and utterly imploded. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. Your greatest military triumph is immediately followed by your most dangerous political crisis. Your secret, 3-man political party, the First Triumvirate, has violently dissolved. This is a major historical fact that changes everything. Your financial backer, Marcus Crassus, in a foolish attempt to win his own military glory, had launched an invasion of the Parthian Empire. His army was annihilated at the Battle of Carrhae, and Crassus himself was killed, allegedly by having molten gold poured down his throat. The financial leg of your alliance is gone. The personal leg is gone too. Your daughter Julia, whom you had married to Pompey to seal your pact, has died in childbirth. The bond of family that held you and your great rival together is broken. Now, all that is left is you and Pompey. The precise moment that you and Pompey shifted from being tense political rivals to mortal enemies is difficult to pinpoint. Was it the death of your daughter Julia that broke the personal bond? Or was the clash of your two immense ambitions always, from the very beginning, inevitable? What is certain is that Pompey, now alone with you at the top of the Roman world, has grown jealous and fearful of your incredible success in Gaul. He has drifted into an alliance with your old, implacable enemies in the conservative faction of the Senate. Pompey the Great, your former partner, has just switched sides and is now working with the very people who want to see you tried for treason. Your entire political position is built on the concept of dignitas, an obscure but all-important Roman idea. It is your honor, your prestige, your public standing. It is the most valuable thing a Roman aristocrat possesses. And your enemies in the Senate, led by the stern and incorruptible Cato the Younger, are determined to strip you of it. While you are in your winter quarters in Gaul, trying to pacify the last embers of the revolt, they are waging a relentless political war against you in Rome. Their plan is simple. They want to terminate your command as governor. This would force you to return to Rome not as a conquering general at the head of your army, but as a private citizen. And the moment you become a private citizen, you will lose your legal immunity and can be prosecuted for the legally questionable acts you committed during your consulship years earlier. You are the most successful general in Roman history, with a fiercely loyal army of veterans at your back who would follow you to the ends of the earth. And you are also, technically, about to become an unemployed criminal, facing certain conviction and exile at the hands of your political enemies. It is a very awkward professional situation. You try to negotiate, you send letters, you offer compromises, you agree to give up your command, but only if Pompey gives up his. The Senate, now controlled by your enemies and backed by Pompey, refuses. They issue an ultimatum: disband your army immediately and return to Rome, or you will be declared an hostis, an enemy of the state. This is the ultimate sucky reality of your situation. You have spent a decade enduring the unimaginable hardships of the Gallic Wars. You have slept in the mud, you have been wounded, you have fought in hundreds of battles, all for the glory and expansion of Rome. A callback to that brutal grind. Your reward is not a triumph, but a political death sentence. You are a hero to the people, but you have become an enemy to the very state you have so loyally and so brutally served. You are backed into a corner. You have two choices. You can obey the Senate, give up your army, and return to Rome to face the humiliation of a show trial and the end of your career. Or you can keep your army, defy the Senate, and march on your own country, plunging the entire Roman world into a catastrophic civil war. You are in your winter quarters in Ravenna, a town in northern Italy, on the very edge of your provincial command. You have conquered Gaul. You are the most powerful man in the Roman world, and you are a dead man walking. The political situation in Rome has reached its breaking point. A callback to the unstable alliance you forged, your triumvirate is dead, and your former partner, Pompey, is now the champion of your mortal enemies in the Senate. They have passed their final decree. You are to lay down your command, disband your loyal, battle-hardened army, and return to Rome as a private citizen to face prosecution. They have, in essence, ordered you to commit political and financial suicide. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. You are now faced with the most miserable and consequential choice of your life. You stand on the banks of a small, insignificant river called the Rubicon. It is not an impressive body of water. You could probably throw a stone across it. But this river is the legal boundary of your province. On this side is your army, your power, your career, your very life. On the other side is Italy and treason. It is a major historical fact, an uncrossable line in Roman law. For a general to lead his army out of his province and into Italy is the ultimate act of insurrection. It is a declaration of war against the state. The ancient sources portray your hesitation at the Rubicon as a moment of deep, personal anguish. Whether this was a genuine moral struggle, a man wrestling with the catastrophic consequences of his actions, or a brilliant piece of political theatre for the benefit of your officers, a way of showing that you were the reluctant party being forced into this war, is a question that goes to the heart of your complex character. You pace the riverbank all night, debating with your own soul. You know what this means. It is not a war against Gauls or Britons. It is a war against Romans. You will be fighting Pompey the Great, your former ally, your former son-in-law. Legionaries will be killing legionaries. The entire Roman world, from the sands of Egypt to the forests of Spain, will be plunged into a brutal, self-destructive conflict. And for what? You are not marching on Rome to become a king or a dictator. You are marching on Rome because your political enemies have made it impossible for you to simply come home and enjoy a quiet retirement. This is the most consequential civil war in history, and it is, at its core, a catastrophic legal dispute over your employment status and your right to not be prosecuted by a kangaroo court. A callback to your youth, you remember the sullen prescriptions. You remember the terror of being a hunted fugitive. You know exactly what happens to the loser of a Roman civil war. If you submit, you will be exiled or executed. If you fight and lose, you will be exiled or executed. Your only path to survival is to fight and to win. The night is cold and quiet. Your soldiers of the 13th Legion are waiting. They are fiercely loyal to you. They have fought with you for 9 years in Gaul. They will follow you anywhere. But this is the one order that will change everything. As you finally make your decision, you turn to your companions. According to the historian Suetonius, you utter the famous, fatalistic words of a gambler making his final, irreversible bet. Alea iacta est, you say. The die is cast. It is not a heroic war cry. It is the quiet, grim statement of a man who knows he has no other choice, a man accepting a terrible destiny he has been pushed into. It is the verbal equivalent of a man hitting send on an email he knows will get him fired, start a corporate war, and change the company forever. You give the signal. The standard bearer of the 13th Legion begins to walk. You and your soldiers follow him in the dead of a winter's night across the small wooden bridge. The sound of your army's hobnailed sandals on the planks is the only sound. You have crossed the Rubicon. You have just, with this single, quiet, somber act, destroyed the Roman Republic. You have crossed the Rubicon. The die is cast. You are now officially a traitor, an enemy of the state. And this is the next reason it sucks to be you. You must now wage a war, not against a foreign barbarian, but against your own country, your own people, your own friends. Every victory you achieve will be a wound on the body of Rome itself. This is not a war of conquest. It is a war of national suicide, and you are the one holding the knife. You expect a brutal, bloody fight for control of Italy. Instead, what happens is surreal. You march south with your single, battle-hardened 13th Legion, and the country simply falls into your hands. Town after town opens its gates to you, greeting you not as a traitor but as a returning hero. Your great rival, Pompey the Great, and the powerful senators who backed him are caught completely off guard by your speed. They had assumed you would negotiate, that you would hesitate. They were wrong. Panic grips the capital. Pompey, despite having a much larger army on paper, declares that Rome cannot be defended. He and the majority of the Senate abandon the city, fleeing south in a disorganized, humiliating exodus. You have just conquered Italy without fighting a single major battle. It is the most anticlimactic and confusingly successful invasion in history. You enter Rome not as a conqueror, but as its master. And it is here that you implement a new and revolutionary weapon, one that is far more powerful than your legions, the policy of clementia. This is a major and defining historical fact of your character, a callback to the terror of the sullen prescriptions that nearly ended your own life as a boy. You are determined not to repeat the cycle of bloody purges. When you capture a town, you do not order massacres. When prominent senators who had opposed you are captured, you do not have them executed. You pardon them, you forgive them, you return their property, and you allow them to go free. Your enemies are confused by this. Your own soldiers who were looking forward to the traditional and highly profitable rewards of plunder are deeply disappointed. It is a very noble and, to a Roman army, a very unpopular military strategy. Whether your famous policy of clementia was a genuine expression of a merciful character and a desire to heal the Republic, or a cold, pragmatic tool of propaganda designed to make your enemies look cruel and unforgiving by comparison, is a core question of your statesmanship. But your mercy does not end the war. Pompey has fled Italy by ship, sailing east to Greece, where he will use the vast resources of the eastern provinces to raise a massive new army. You are now the master of Italy, but you are trapped. Pompey's legions control Spain in the west, and he himself is building the main army in the east. You are in the middle, and you must now fight a global war on multiple fronts. You spend the next few years in a relentless, exhausting series of campaigns, chasing Pompey's forces across the Mediterranean world. This is the sucky, grinding reality of your great civil war. It is a miserable, heartbreaking affair. At the siege of Massilia in Gaul, you fight against men who are old friends. In Spain, you battle legions who were once your comrades in arms. And finally, in 48 BC, you confront Pompey himself at the great battle of Pharsalus in Greece. You are outnumbered, but your veteran legions are superior. You win a stunning, decisive victory. Pompey, the man who was once your son-in-law, your ally, and the greatest general in the world, is forced to flee the battlefield as a defeated fugitive. You have won, but as you walk across the battlefield afterwards, you look at the thousands of dead and dying men. They are not Gauls, they are not Britons, they are Romans, they are your own countrymen. The historian Appian records that you looked upon the scene not with triumph, but with profound grief, saying they would have it so. Every victory in this war is a tragedy. You are destroying the very class of men who built the Republic, and you are killing the sons of Rome to save it. The weight of this contradiction, the grief of this fratricidal war, is a heavier burden than any crown. You have won the great civil war. At the Battle of Pharsalus, you have shattered the armies of Pompey and the Senate. Your rival is now a fugitive, and you are the undisputed master of the Roman world. But this is the next reason it sucks to be you. Your victory does not bring peace. It brings a new, even more complicated series of problems. Your final enemy is not an army, but a ghost. You pursue Pompey across the Mediterranean, determined to capture him and offer him your famous clemency, a final, grand gesture to heal the Republic. You follow him to Egypt, the last great independent kingdom in the Mediterranean. You have just won the Roman Civil War. You pursue your defeated rival, Pompey, to Egypt, expecting a final tense confrontation. Instead, you are greeted at the docks in Alexandria by the ministers of the young boy king, Ptolemy XIII. They proudly present you with a welcome gift, the severed head and signet ring of Pompey the Great. It is a deeply unpleasant and politically disastrous present. Your war is not over. It has just become significantly more complicated and bizarre. Your true reaction to being presented with Pompey's head is a matter of historical debate. Was your famous display of grief and anger a genuine sorrow for a great Roman, a former ally, and your former son-in-law? Or was it a masterful political performance, feigning outrage at an act you were secretly grateful for, in order to give yourself the moral high ground and a legal pretext to intervene in Egyptian affairs? What is certain is that you now have a problem. The Egyptians thought this gruesome gift would please you. Instead, you use it as a reason to land your small army, march into the royal palace, and effectively occupy the capital of their kingdom. You quickly discover that the royal family of Egypt, the Ptolemies, a callback to your own dysfunctional Roman politics, are a deeply disturbed nest of vipers. The kingdom is in the middle of its own civil war between the 10-year-old king and his ambitious exiled older sister Cleopatra. You, the conqueror of Gaul and the master of Rome, are now forced to act as a reluctant marriage counselor and international family therapist to a pair of feuding royal siblings who both want you to help them murder the other. You are the most powerful man in the world, but you have made a critical miscalculation. You have with you only 2 legions, less than 4,000 men. The Egyptian royal army, loyal to the boy king and his scheming advisors, numbers over 20,000. Seeing you meddling in their politics, they decide to solve the problem by besieging you in the palace district of Alexandria. You have gone from conquering the Roman world to being stuck in a very large, very hostile hotel from which you cannot check out. This is the great, sucky irony of your situation. For the next several months, during the Alexandrian War, you, the great Julius Caesar, are trapped. It is a brutal, desperate, and deeply humiliating period of urban warfare. You are fighting for your life, not on an open battlefield, but in the narrow streets and along the harbor of a foreign city. You are forced to burn the Egyptian fleet in the harbor to prevent them from being used against you. A fire which, in the chaos, spreads and destroys at least part of the great library of Alexandria, a catastrophic loss of knowledge. At one point, you are forced to swim for your life from a collapsing causeway, holding your famous commentaries above your head with one hand and your purple general's cloak in your teeth, while arrows splash into the water around you. It is a miserable, undignified and deeply unwanted distraction. While the remnants of your Republican enemies are regrouping and raising new armies in Africa and Spain, you are stuck in Egypt, fighting a petty war over a dynastic squabble you stumbled into. And it is all because you were pursuing a man you had already defeated, a final act of the civil war that has now dragged you into a completely new and even more complicated conflict. You are the master of the world, but for a few terrifying months in Alexandria, you are a prisoner, fighting for your survival, a testament to the fact that even for a man of your genius, victory is never final, and the world is always more chaotic than you think. You have survived the siege. With the arrival of Roman reinforcements, you have crushed the army of your brother and sister, and you have installed Cleopatra on the throne of Egypt. The immediate life-threatening crisis is over. The rest of the Roman world, however, is still on fire. A callback to the enemies you left behind, the remnants of Pompey's forces and the hardline Republican senators are gathering massive new armies in North Africa and Spain. Your allies in Rome are sending you frantic, desperate messages, pleading for you to return and finish the civil war before the Republic collapses entirely. You make a sound, strategic decision. You decide to take a 2-month-long luxury cruise up the Nile with your new girlfriend. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. Your own fascination with this strange, ancient land and with its brilliant queen leads you to commit one of the most profound and politically damaging acts of negligence of your entire career. You, the man famous for his lightning speed and decisive action, decide to take a vacation in the middle of a global civil war. This is a major historical fact of your life. For several months in 47 BC, while your enemies regroup, you remain in Egypt. The centerpiece of this stay is a magnificent, opulent procession up the Nile on a grand royal barge, a floating palace in the company of Cleopatra. The true purpose of your Nile cruise is debated. Was it a calculated political tour to solidify Cleopatra's rule and awe the people of Upper Egypt into submission? Was it a genuine romantic interlude, a brief escape from the brutal pressures of your Roman life? Or was it the act of a man suffering from a kind of political burnout, a man who had simply grown tired of the endless, thankless task of civil war? Whatever the reason, the perception in Rome is catastrophic. Your floating palace is a marvel of Hellenistic luxury. You recline on silk cushions, you are served exquisite food and wine by an army of servants, and you are entertained by musicians. You are living the life not of a Roman proconsul, a servant of the state, but of an Eastern-style god-king, an absolute monarch. This is an obscure but vital concept that terrifies your enemies back home. They see you adopting the customs of a foreign decadent monarchy. They see you being seduced, not just by a woman, but by a different, more absolute form of power. For a man who is supposed to be the first citizen of a republic, you are looking suspiciously like an oriental despot on a very long holiday. While you are admiring the ancient temples of Karnak and the Valley of the Kings, your enemies in North Africa, led by Cato and Scipio, are raising a massive army of 10 legions. While you are feasting with Cleopatra, your allies in Rome are sending you letters that probably say, in increasingly panicked Latin, "We are happy you are enjoying your trip, but could you please come back and finish the civil war before we are all murdered and our property is confiscated?" The news of your dalliance spreads, the rumors begin. You have gone native. You have been bewitched by the foreign sorceress. You plan to move the capital of the Republic from Rome to Alexandria. This is the sucky reality of your situation. You are the most powerful man in the world, but your power is based on a delicate and carefully maintained public image, a call back to the persona you crafted in your commentaries. You are supposed to be a man of action, a man of duty, a man of Rome, and you are acting like a tourist. This long, self-indulgent delay gives your enemies exactly what they need: time. Time to gather their forces, time to spread their propaganda, and time to paint you as a man who has abandoned his Roman identity for the pleasures of a foreign queen. You are at the height of your power, but you are also profoundly lonely and tired. The long years of the Gallic Wars, the trauma of the Civil War, the constant political betrayals, they have taken their toll. Egypt, with its ancient, timeless stability and its brilliant, captivating queen, is a seductive escape. It is a world away from the petty, backstabbing politics of the Roman Senate, but it is an escape you cannot afford. Every day you spend drifting on the Nile is a day your enemies grow stronger and your own position in Rome grows weaker. You have won the battle for Egypt, but you are now in danger of losing the much larger war for your own future, all for the sake of a long, pleasant boat trip. You finally tear yourself away from Egypt and your new family. It is late in 47 BC. You return to the business of winning the Roman Civil War. You are no longer the energetic, unstoppable conqueror of Gaul. You are now a man in your mid-50s, an old man by Roman standards, and the past 15 years of relentless campaigning, political stress, and sleeping on the ground have taken a profound toll. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. Just as you are reaching the absolute pinnacle of your power, your own body begins to betray you. You go to Africa to confront the last great army of the Republic, led by your old enemy Cato and your former father-in-law, Metellus Scipio. You crush them at the bloody Battle of Thapsus in 46 BC. Then you must go to Spain, where Pompey's sons have raised one last desperate army. You meet them at the Battle of Munda in 45 BC. It is one of the hardest, most desperate battles of your entire life. At one point, your own lines begin to break, and you are forced to rush into the fray yourself, fighting like a common soldier to rally your terrified veterans. You will later tell your friends that you have fought many times for victory, but at Munda, you had to fight for your very life. You win, but the victory is costly and grim. Your enemies are like a stubborn weed. No matter how many times you cut them down, they keep popping up somewhere else, forcing you into another miserable, bloody campaign. But there is a quieter, more insidious enemy that you cannot defeat with tactics or legions. This is a major, though often whispered, historical fact of your life. Your health is failing. You suffer from what your contemporaries call the morbus comitialis, the falling sickness. It is most likely a form of epilepsy. This is an obscure but devastatingly important part of your reality. You are the master of the world, and you are terrified that you might suddenly collapse, lose consciousness, and start convulsing in the middle of an important Senate meeting or while reviewing your troops. In Roman society, such a fit was often seen as a terrible omen, a sign of divine disapproval. For a man whose public image of divine favor is everything, it is a dangerous and deeply humiliating vulnerability. The exact nature of your illness is, of course, impossible to diagnose with certainty from a distance of 2,000 years. Modern scholars have proposed everything from epilepsy to a series of mini-strokes, or even a brain parasite. What is clear from the ancient sources is that you were subject to fits, headaches, and dizzy spells, particularly towards the end of your life. Your public image of tireless, superhuman strength concealed a private reality of increasing physical fragility. You are now back in Rome, the undisputed master of the state. You are being showered with honors. The Senate, now packed with your own supporters, votes you the title Dictator Perpetuo, Dictator for life. They are naming months after you. They are planning temples to your divine genius. You are becoming a living god. You are also a man who gets dizzy spells and has to carefully manage his public appearances to avoid the humiliation of having an epileptic seizure in front of a crowd. It is very difficult to maintain an aura of divinity when you are worried about drooling on your own toga. This is the great, sucky irony of your final years. Your political power is becoming absolute, almost divine, while your physical power is in a state of visible decay. You are a man who has always prided himself on his iron will, his ability to control everything, armies, nations, the whims of fortune itself, and you are now trapped in a body that you cannot control. The fits come without warning, a rebellion from within your own flesh. Each one is a small, terrifying reminder of your own mortality. A brutal contradiction to the immortal, godlike status that is being built up around you. You have conquered the world, but you cannot conquer the strange, misfiring electricity inside your own brain. You have returned to Rome, the final victor of the long and bloody civil wars. You are showered with titles and honors that no Roman has ever held before. You are consul for 10 years, you are prefect of morals, you are pater patriae, father of the fatherland, and finally, in 44 BC, you are made dictator perpetuo, dictator for life. You have won. You have achieved absolute, unassailable power, and this is the next reason it sucks to be you. You have created a political problem for which there is no solution, a problem so profound that it will get you killed. The problem is the word king. You have all the power of an absolute monarch. Your face is on the coinage. The month of Quintilis is renamed July in your honor. Your statues are placed in the temples alongside the gods. A callback to your family's claims, you are now officially referred to as the Divine Julius. You are a king in all but name, but that one single hated word is a line you cannot cross. The Roman Republic was founded on the violent overthrow of its last king, Tarquin the Proud, 500 years ago. The cultural hatred of the very concept of monarchy is the single most powerful idea in Roman politics. You are the master of a republic that is pathologically, violently allergic to the title of the job you are actually doing. This creates an unbearable, constant tension. The old republican system is dead, shattered by a century of civil wars. You know that only your strong one-man rule can keep the peace and prevent the empire from collapsing back into chaos. But the senators, the old aristocratic families, watch your every move with a mixture of fear and loathing. They see your power, they see your popularity with the common people, and they see a tyrant who is just waiting for the right moment to put on a crown. And you, whether deliberately or out of sheer arrogance, keep giving them ammunition. A callback to your disastrous Egyptian entanglement. Your foreign mistress, Queen Cleopatra of Egypt, is living in your private villa just outside Rome. She has with her your son, Caesarion. Her presence is a constant, scandalous reminder of your connection to the decadent, divine monarchies of the East. The senators see her and whisper that you plan to make her your queen and her son your heir, and move the capital of the empire to Alexandria. Then, at the festival of Lupercalia in February of 44 BC, the situation explodes. This is a major and possibly staged historical event. While you are sitting on your gilded throne, watching the festivities, your loyal and flamboyant Lieutenant Mark Antony runs up to you. He is drunk, half naked as part of the ancient ritual, and in his hands he holds a royal diadem, the laurel wreath intertwined with a white ribbon that is the symbol of a Hellenistic king. He tries to place it on your head. You, in a grand gesture of public humility, refuse, pushing it away. The crowd, who loves you but hates kings, erupts in cheers. Antony, not getting the hint, tries again. You refuse again, more forcefully. It is a brilliant piece of political theatre designed to show how deeply Republican you are. It also manages to convince every single one of your enemies that you are absolutely, definitively planning to become king, and this was just a clumsy test of public opinion. Whether the Lupercalia affair was a genuine miscalculation by Antony, a carefully staged test by you to gauge the political mood, or a plot by your enemies to force you into a compromising position, is one of the most debated and mysterious episodes leading up to your assassination. To make matters worse, an obscure but convenient prophecy begins to circulate, allegedly from the sacred Sibylline books. The prophecy states that Rome can only defeat the Parthian Empire, your next planned military campaign, if led by a king. It is all too much for the old guard of the Senate. They see the writing on the wall. They believe you are about to use this prophecy and this war as an excuse to finally have yourself declared king. For them, your death is now not just a political desire, it is a patriotic duty. It is the only way to save the Republic. The sucky reality of your situation is that you have become a victim of your own success. The power you have accumulated is too great for the system to contain. You cannot give it up without being destroyed by your enemies. You cannot keep it without being seen as a tyrant, and you cannot take the final logical step of becoming a king without triggering the violent, paranoid fury of the very men you are forced to work with every day in the Senate. You are trapped in a golden cage of your own making, and the only way out is death. You are a king in all but name, trapped in a political paradox of your own making. And the men you share the Senate floor with every day, many of whom you have pardoned and promoted, have decided that the only way to solve this problem is with a dagger. This is the final and most intimate reason it sucks to be you. After surviving a dozen foreign wars and a global civil war, you will be murdered not by an enemy soldier on a glorious battlefield, but by your own colleagues in your own office during a government meeting. The morning of the Ides of March, 44 BC, is thick with bad omens. This is an obscure but famous part of your story. Your wife, Calpurnia, wakes from a nightmare, convinced she has seen you murdered, and begs you not to go to the Senate. A soothsayer named Spurina had famously warned you weeks earlier to beware the Ides of March. On your way to the meeting at the theatre of Pompey, someone even thrusts a scroll into your hand that reportedly contains a detailed list of all the conspirators and their entire plot. You, a man who has always been deeply superstitious, a man who would delay a battle because of the flight patterns of birds, decide, on this one fateful day, to ignore all of it. Perhaps it is arrogance, perhaps it is fatalism. You see Spurina on the steps and you joke, "The Ides of March have come." He replies grimly, "Aye, Caesar, but not yet gone." You enter the Senate meeting. The conspirators, as many as 60 of them, have planned their moment. They crowd around you as you take your seat, pretending to support a petition being brought by one of their members. Then the signal is given. One of the senators pulls your toga from your shoulders. Another, named Casca, strikes the first clumsy blow with a dagger, wounding you in the neck. You cry out. The attack descends into a chaotic, bloody frenzy. The men who are now killing you are not your lifelong enemies. A callback to your policy of mercy. Many of them are men you pardoned after the Civil War. They are men you have promoted. They are men you have dined with. You fight back, stabbing one of them with your stylus, the sharp metal pen you use for writing. But you are one man against dozens. You are being stabbed from all sides, and then you see him, a face among the assassins that you do not expect. Marcus Junius Brutus, a man you had treated like a son, the son of your former mistress. He comes forward and stabs you in the groin. The famous legendary phrase, "Et tu, Brute," "You too, Brutus," was almost certainly invented by Shakespeare centuries later. The ancient historian Suetonius reports that your real last act was one of silent, final dignity. Upon seeing Brutus among your murderers, you realized that all was lost. You stopped fighting, and you pulled your toga up over your head so that no one would see your face in the moment of your death. You have been stabbed 23 times. You collapse and die at the foot of a great statue of your former rival, Pompey the Great. Your assassins, the liberators, burst from the building, their daggers dripping with your blood. They shout to the city that the tyrant is dead and the republic is free. They expect to be hailed as heroes, but this is the final sucky irony of your life. Your death does not save the republic. It destroys it forever. Your death plunges the Roman world into another, even more brutal and destructive 13-year civil war. The men who murdered you are hunted down and killed, and from the ashes of that final conflict, a new, undisputed master of Rome will emerge. He will learn all the lessons from your successes and your failures. He will be more cautious, more subtle, and ultimately more ruthless in his consolidation of power. He will call himself Augustus. He is your adopted son, your great-nephew Octavian. The assassins killed you to prevent a king from ruling Rome, and your death is the very thing that made an emperor inevitable. You spent your entire life in a relentless, agonizing struggle for power, only for your own murder to be the final, necessary ingredient that handed that power, absolute and unquestioned, to the boy you chose to carry your name.